Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, it's Night Swim. It is your obligatory annual Blumhouse January horror film. This movie occupies the same spot on the calendar that Megan did a year ago. And while it in no way reaches the dizzying gonzo heights of Megan and will not have the same kind of cultural footprint, it is out there trying its best in Blumhousey fashion. If you've not subscribed yet, you should, because we're doing this for you. All kinds of really important movies are out there right now, you guys. We will always get to your January horror to let you know whether it's worth going to the theater to see it. Alonzo, what is Night Swim about?
Marco, you need to say something back.
To borrow the old tagline from Insidious, it's not the house that's haunted. It's the pool. So Wyatt Russell plays a former pro baseball player who has been sidelined with an MS diagnosis, and he and his family, including his wife Carrie Condon from Banshees of Inisherin, move into a new house in a new community, and they discover, oh, this place has a pool, awesome, because part of his exercise is to do pool things. But we find out before the credits roll that pool has a bit of a past. In 1992, a young girl was trying to get her brother's toy boat out in the middle of the night, and we haven't seen her since. And so, the family is dealing with the dad's issues and trying to figure out what his life is going to be. And the pool starts playing a larger role in their lives, and it's a bad thing, man. I'm trying to avoid spoilers here.
Let's not spoil, right?
It's a horror movie about a pool, and as such, I think it was most effective for about the first 30 to 45 minutes, where they don't really explain what's going on, and they don't physically manifest anything from the pool. It's just the pool. And the sound design and the editing and is creepy as fuck, and they make the pool really scary. And then when they start explaining stuff, it got a little less interesting for me. But it's a fun, jazzy little PG-13 horror movie, I guess. I think you had a better time than me.
I had fun. I laughed out loud so many times because I feel like this movie knows what it is, and the people who are in this movie know what it is. Like Wyatt Russell in particular has some line deliveries that are totally earnest and innocent in the midst of this increasingly absurd scenario, and it made me laugh my ass off. I thought this was really well done from a technical perspective. Bryce McGuire directed this. It's based on a short film that he and a co-writer did several years ago. And they've expanded upon that here. What they do to set the mood early on with the rhythmic, belching and glug, glug, glug of the filter and the lights in the pool going off and on and just camera angles. They do some cool stuff with like upside down shots and with reflections early on. Yeah. There's a really neat shot early on where they first see the pool. They're looking at the backyard, pondering buying this house, and the reflection of the sky and the clouds are like brightly shining on the pool tarp, the cover. And from the very beginning, there's the sense of like, you cannot trust what you see. There's this unreliable nature to what should be a very peaceful setting. I love the fact that it's like evil pool, it's monster pool, because a pool should be like luxurious and relaxing and inviting. So the idea that like jumping into it, and giving yourself over to it would be deadly.
Well, but there's always that hint of danger with the pool, though. There's always that threat of like, oh, what if I sink? What if I drown? What if I get a cramp? Whatever. So it's like, yes, on the one hand, it is like sort of luxurious and benign, but there is always that undercurrent of like, be careful. No running. There are safety things to keep in mind, and this movie is very much playing on that hidden fear, I think.
Yeah, there's a teenage girl and a boy who's like a sort of an awkward, kind of scrawny tween boy, and like that to me reminds me of being a kid and swimming in our pool at night and like being afraid of like touching the light or touching the drain and like what might happen. And so the film does play on those fears and does some cool stuff with distorted perspective, like when they're under the water but looking up at who's on the edge of the pool, and like it's a little shimmery, a little unreliable, and like when you're in the pool and like part of your body looks like it's a little like dented or something. Like they play with all that. And also I love that the pool is just a rectangular concrete hole in the ground, right? Like it's not swinging 60s kidney-shaped pool. And it's also not like one of these really extreme pools. There was a show on HGTV called Insane Pools, where people would go and get like slides and grottos and swim up bars and like elaborate tacky shit in their backyard. This is not that. This is like a rectangle. And I think that's a relatable quality about it too. But yeah, once they start explaining why the pool is evil, it gets way less interesting. But then the stuff that happens with the water, like there's stuff with the water that's always kind of creepy in different settings.
Even outside of the pool, the water becomes like this threatening thing. There was a thing that I was thinking about later that did bug me. And I forgot to bring it up when we did our Out of the Theater reaction. I don't know if you ever read this. Roger Ebert back in the day talked about how when people in movies hold their breath, he would hold his breath. And then every second that they kept holding their breath after he finally had to breathe, he would count that as a unit that he called Shelley's, in honor of Shelley Winters from the Poseidon Adventure.
That's so specific. Oh my gosh.
He would talk about how many Shelleys they went and whether or not it was plausible. There's a moment late in the film where somebody does a lot of Shelleys.
Yeah.
Where you're like, really? They're still... you know, and you just have to kind of go with that.
Because I think that plays into the supernatural quality of what might be happening here.
I guess.
And that's why I was okay with that. There's some kind of cool supporting casting in really small roles. I want to look up for I actually mentioned them both by name in my review. The Ben Sinclair plays the pool guy. Tech.
Yes, he's got a great monologue.
He just has like an oddball presence that's like weird and funny and kind of sets the tone. And also, Nancy Lenehan is the Minnesota Nice real estate agent who is like kind of passive aggressive, and I thought she was good.
Did I not mention that?
Yeah, and everyone's good. Like Carrie Condon's taking this totally seriously.
Oh yeah.
Like, here's your Oscar nomination for Banshees of Inisherin. Now you get Night Swim. But I think everyone is like taking it seriously. It just kind of falls apart. Like it's a cool idea that kind of runs out of steam.
Yeah, and I think that they're so good at manufacturing menace out of literally nothing, you know, that I just kind of wish they had just sort of committed to the idea of like, there's something disturbing about this pool, and we don't necessarily have to like spell it all out for you or whatever. And I don't know. It just, I wish they'd committed to the bit more, because they're very good at keeping things vague. And then at some point in some notes meeting, somebody's like, well, we have to tell people why the pool, blah, 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 and, you know, and that's,
it would have been a much better non-impact way to get your exercise in for this family. That's not a pool. It's Carol Bike. Awesome stationary bike that I use all the time. I just used it this week when it was too cold to go running, and it walks you through it with fun music and fun graphics. It's a very efficient workout. You put 8 minutes into it and you feel great afterward. We have a deal with Carol Bike. If you get your Carol Bike between now and January 15th with our link below and our code Breakfast All Day, is $250 off of your Carol Bike. And just think, like, there's no monster bike, right? There's a monster pool that's trying to eat people. The bike's not going to eat you guys.
It's safe on dry land with your bike.
Right. So go check that out. So what's your number then for Night Swim?
I'll say like a 6.2. I was entertained more than I wasn't. And, you know, for it ain't no Megan, but for January horror, it ain't bad.
I too was surprised. I will say 6. I had fun. It wasn't terrible. Night Swim is in theaters now. Will you see it? Let us know.